I want to thank my colleague for encouraging you to become my friend on Facebook. That's Ellio with two L's. I always say, give me two legs to stand on. But yeah, if you can log on to my Facebook page or send me a friend request, and if you're already a friend of mine on Facebook, then, share some of those little articles that I'm writing. I'm going to be writing some more, both on my page as well as for Straight Talk, analyzing the facts, the figures, and helping to educate, enlighten, and to elevate. And I would appreciate very much if you can help me to spread the word.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I got two comments coming in terms of not necessarily streaming. So did we rectify that? Are we going to get in contact?
No, we're on the air
Con
now.
Senor Roberto? Or we're on air? We're on air.
We're on the air now.
We are on the air. So if your persons who sent me the text can confirm that you're seeing us, I would greatly appreciate it. 444 up in here in the studio. Magic, one of those things where you got all three numbers the same. I have a particular person, Austin, that keeps telling me, Ellio, it's 11:11. I'm like, what is that? It's two 11s.
Mm-hmm.
So they would probably be saying, no, it's 444. Okay, I'll make a note of that. So again, I want to let you know we're going to be chatting with the Honorable Roy Bawden coming into the studio here with us, joining us at 5 o'clock until 5:30 to talk about his new book. I believe this is book number 4. I think I've at least enjoyed 2 of them. And I also had the pleasure of having this gentleman give me another book, one that he didn't author, but it's always a pleasure when I can get a chance to see him, and even more so when we can chat. That interview should be between 5 and 5:30. And then after that, we're going to go into our open mic session, and Austin and I are going to chat about a myriad of different issues, 2 of which at least I know I have on my mind and just burning. So don't go away.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you might want to encourage a friend or two to listen. It's 103.1. 103.1 is the studio. And, of course, you want to call and get in here in the studio in the conversation. The number to call here is 745-2626. That's 745-2626. And the WhatsApp number, if calling isn't necessarily your thing, is 928-2562. 928-2562. Send us a WhatsApp, either a voice message or a text. So we're clear to go now, Mr. Harris, yeah?
We're clear to go now, yes. We are streaming on YouTube and over Facebook, both on our Straight Talk page as well as on the ACT Cruise Tourism page. And we should be up on YouTube. I just got confirmation from a member of the listening audience saying
it's good.
that we just came online about 2 minutes ago. So we are grateful for that. Sorry for any confusion and or issues that certainly we know people get their fix come 4:30, and when it doesn't happen right on the dot, then maybe they go through some jitters and shakes. And I appreciate you letting us know, because if you don't tell us what's broken,
how would we know?
How would we know? And certainly, how could we have the opportunity to fix it? So again, as I always say, our listening audience are our single greatest asset, and we do love you. As the clock is ticking at 47 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock, we got bits of good news. First of all, we want to begin, as perhaps we concluded yesterday, by congratulating the University College of the Cayman Islands class of 2025, who graduated last night at the 2025 commencement ceremonies that were held at the university and broadcast over YouTube. Managed to catch a little bit of it last night after I left the show.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed to be very well attended. In addition to, not to mention the graduates who obviously put in at least 4 years of solid hard work. But there were, as they say, the stalwart Caymanians, at least 3 of them who received honorary doctorates for their contributions to the community. And we want to say congratulations to them as well. Also in the good news category, I read in the Cayman Compass today that the Best of Cayman Talent delivered a showcase at the 24th Annual Talent Exposition of the Arts, which was held Sunday night at the Harkwell Theater. Now, regrettably, I didn't know anything about this event. I might have gone had I known, but certainly thanks to the Compass for a great article on it today. It says, organized by the new Self-Help Foundation, some 32 artists, including poets, dancers, musicians, and musical theater performers, showcased a variety of talent in various genres of music under the theme of joy. The sold-out event comprised of 2-act showcases, including performances by the John Gray Elite Strings, Duquesne Smith, and Krista Bevilacqua, Radiance Dance, Monisha Ferguson, Dream Chasers, Erica Asai, Abigail Jervis, the Williams family, 345 dancers, the Martinez Tribe, Rico, Rolando, and Centerpoint Limited. There were standout performances noted by the UCCI Dance Company and their performance of The Vow, which is about love, temptation, and the fallout from betrayal. Ooh. Another standout performance came from young opera singer Miss Powell. That's all I can say. Iyanla Miss Powell is her name, who impressed with the operatic
Stick with what you know.
in her rendition of Queen of the Night in the here aria. Event stage manager Sophie Connolly said Cayman has so much to offer. The full show is only rehearsed once, adding it's always really exciting to see what's going on to come year after year. Cayman clearly has a wide range of talent, and the event on Sunday was sold out. Certainly want to just say congratulations to, first of all, everyone who had the opportunity to attend and made up that sold-out attendance, but certainly likewise congratulations to the 32 artists who participated in the showcase and in musical or talent exhibition. The proceeds from this year's event went toward the Foundation's Community Youth Talent Training Program of the Arts. Again, the event was put on by the new Self-Help Foundation. So kudos to that foundation, and above all, kudos to the artisans who showed out to perform their skills and talents before a sellout crowd. I think that's exciting. And again, sorry we missed it.
So it's almost like a little bit reminds me of myself and my drama days.
It does. It does. I'm surprised you weren't there. Though I'm also looking at some of the names, and I suppose it's rather fortuitous that I had some of these challenging names in which to practice my vocabulary, because to your point, at 5 o'clock and before that, we had the opportunity to peruse the Honorable Roy Bodden's book. And one thing I will say, not only are his books riveting, very interesting, certainly historically and educationally correct, but it is above all an opportunity
to improve your diction,
to help one improve their diction and exercise one's vocabulary, because he writes and speaks as if he is speaking out of the Encyclopedia Britannica. But it just only goes to show, again, his intellectual capacity. And he doesn't waste words. And why throw in 5 or 6 words when one
captures it?
One 18-letter word will do it.
Yeah. Cocoa amphocarboxypropionate. That's the one that comes to my mind.
There you go. Skullduggery.
That was one of the longest words I've ever seen. Back of a shampoo.
But we're going to be talking to Roy Bodden again in about 9 or so minutes. And again, all joking aside, I'm anxious to share details from this book. Again, we both had the opportunity to peruse it. We didn't have the opportunity to read it cover to cover, but I will say we did make a dent in the few short hours that we had it, and it was very, very interesting, and I can't wait to own my own copy. Coming up at 5 o'clock, we will be engaging with our special guest, the Honorable Roy Bodden, on his new book, Deconstructing Development, Immigration, Society, and Economy in Early 21st Century Cayman. 52 minutes, now 53 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock. I think we have time for one more good news item, Ellio. We see on this week, as a matter of fact, Parliament passed the historic term limits for non-Caymanians working in the civil service. And it was passed unanimously, making the public sector more in line with the private sector. Introducing the Public Service Management Amendment Bill 2025, Acting Deputy Governor Gloria McField-Nixon told the House, this bill, and I quote, this bill comes following a clear call for action for the civil service to introduce measures to limit the duration of time that non-Caymanian employees may remain employed in our civil service. It was understood that the call for term limits within the civil service is underpinned by a desire to achieve greater parity with the private sector, a need to address perceived irregularities arising from the current law, and a desire to create more employment opportunities for Caymanians. She added that employment and immigration were not trivial matters, and these matters can be quite emotive, especially to those who are directly impacted, and said government had worked hard to reduce any unintended consequences, which could be severe and highly disruptive. Non-Caymanian civil servants currently make up 4% of the workforce, with only 173 non-Caymanian civil servants being permanent residents, and half of those having acquired that status through marriage. Interestingly enough, she pointed out that it was worth noting that the average tenure of non-Caymanian civil servants is 5.8 years, adding that this indicates that the majority of non-Caymanians within the civil service exit the organization a long time before they meet their current 9-year requirement to be eligible for consideration to receive permanent residency.
And that goes along with what I had said before, that we actually have a real opportunity here to look at this bubble called the civil service and see that we had less persons getting PR under the civil service than we had in the private sector. So it seems that the fact that you put it in place, that time ticking, forces people to apply for something that they maybe weren't going to apply for in the end.
Well, certainly we shall see. I mean, again, she points out that the average length of time that they stick around on the job, on contract, is just under 6 years, still short of the time period required to make the application. But to your point, maybe now that there is a time limit, more persons may in fact step up to the plate. I think it is a fair assessment to make, though it remains to be seen whether or not the current trend will change any. Let's not forget, there still will be exemptions added to this amendment bill, and I didn't read anywhere that suggested that the exemptions will expand further than what has already been stated in the public domain. It stated, if the policy were to be applied retroactively, she said, some units, such as the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service and the Department of Education Services, would suffer catastrophic organizational failures with the entire RCIPS teams for the Bureau of Financial Investigation, digital forensics, scenes of crime, ballistics, major crime investigations, and analyst and cold case units being lost, suggesting all of those units consist of foreign nationals within the RCIPS, which really, upon realization, is a little discouraging. You're telling me that all of these key, otherwise major department cases are only made up of foreign nationals? Where are the Caymanian understudies? This is truly,
interesting,
to me, disappointing.
Yeah, and I really want to get a chance to listen to her speech, because I got a tail end of something when she said that when I don't think she called my name, but she said when the initial job for Caymanians only was brought, they didn't have the ability to do that. And I want to get all the stuff surrounding that, because I'm not quite sure why that couldn't have been done. I mean, to your point right now, let's start getting some understudies and make it happen.
Absolutely. I mean, certainly when you look at the private sector and the whole work permit process, there is a special line specifically that asks you on your work permit application, are there any Caymanians? And if not, why not? And persons are certainly obligated to say, yes, we have 3 or 4 Caymanians we've identified. They're understudying for this role. So presumably, over the course of the next 8 years, we might theoretically carry one less work permit holder, whilst that rarely ever happens. But certainly at least it's there, and there is an obligation to present it, or at least a reasonable argument to support it on the private sector. But within the policing service, again, highlighted by these major departments, it would suggest from the strength of the acting deputy governor's words, no Caymanians are employed in these areas, and that is troubling. Another area that represents perhaps not so good news is the comment that suggests that term limits do not mean opportunities for Caymanians. The acting deputy governor said, it is known, and I quote, that term limits in isolation will not increase job opportunities for Caymanians. Term limits have not achieved this in the private sector and will not in and of itself achieve it in the civil service. And certainly I think there's a lot of merit to those comments when you add the notion in and of itself. But arguably, if you're removing an expatriate worker, you're thereby creating a pathway for a Caymanian. Why aren't there Caymanians on that path? Now, therein lies the true challenge. But we'll talk about that and all the other issues surrounding it at a later date. We have to pause, take a short commercial break, check in with the top of the hour news brought to you by the BBC. But when we return, Mr. Roy Bodden will be our guest and his new book here on Bobo FM.
Bobo.
BBC News.
BBC News.
World news from the BBC. Violent clashes.
Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive wind.
A search and recovery
A
operation.
race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
A vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. The rap music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been denied bail following his conviction for prostitution-related offences. He'll remain in jail until he's sentenced. Combs was cleared of more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. Nomia Iqbal has the latest.
During the trial, the defence did talk about Sean Combs' violence in his personal relationships. Mark Agnifilo, his defence lawyer, said, "We own it." And so the judge is citing that. He said that Sean Combs had pointed to his duties as a father and a son as a justification to release him on bail, but that did not rise to the level of an appropriate exception. The defence had filed a letter. They said that the jury had rejected the government's depiction of Combs, which says that he was a monster. And so they argued it would be unjust to detain him even one day longer. He's been in jail since last September.
The trial lasted almost 2 months and heard testimony from more than 30 witnesses, including his ex-partners. The United States and Vietnam say they've agreed a trade deal, only the second reached by Washington before a deadline next week that will see a sharp hike in tariffs on almost all countries. President Trump said Vietnamese goods would now be charged levies of 20% when entering the US. He said American goods would be sold to Vietnam tax-free. Republican doubters have been meeting President Trump as the White House pressurises lawmakers to get his massive tax cut and spending bill passed in a final House vote. Opposition to the Big Beautiful Bill, as it's known, comes from both the moderate and conservative wings of the Republican Party. It's grown since the Senate made significant changes to a version first approved by the House of Representatives. Republican Congressman David Kurtoff defended the bill.
This is what President Trump campaigned on all of 2024. It's what all of us campaigned on: financial stability, making sure that the tax cuts that we passed in 2017 become permanent and even make them better, to secure our southern border, to enact President Trump's energy policy. This bill that we're going to be voting on encompasses all of that.
If all members vote, the Republicans can only afford 3 defections to pass the legislation. President Zelensky has said Ukraine is querying what defence support the US will provide after the White House confirmed some weapons deliveries were being halted.
At the working level, Ukraine and the United States are now clarifying all the details regarding the supply of defense support, including air defense components. One way or another, we must ensure protection for our people.
Mr. Zelensky said he feared Washington's decision could encourage Russia to continue the war rather than seek peace. Russia has been escalating its bombardments of Ukraine. The Kremlin welcomed the US decision and said fewer weapons would quicken the end of the war. This is the latest world news from the BBC. The Colombian Navy says it has for the first time seized a drone submarine built for smuggling drugs. It said the vessel was empty and being tested off Colombia's Caribbean coast. The Navy said the sub could carry 1.5 tons of cocaine and was equipped with a Starlink satellite antenna for remote control. Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer has strongly backed his finance minister, saying Rachel Reeves will hold the job for a very long time to come. Speaking to the BBC, he described her tearful appearance in Parliament on Wednesday as a personal matter for her. Chris Mason reports.
Looking down from the press gallery of the House of Commons this lunchtime, we could all see the tears rolling down the Chancellor's cheeks. The Conservative leader seized upon it to frame her questions about her future. The Prime Minister and his team keen to emphasise the strength of their relationship and desire for it to long continue. Multiple colleagues and allies of Rachel Reeves in Parliament are blaming an altercation with the Speaker of the House of Commons, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, for her tearful appearance, while also pointing to a separate personal issue. The Speaker's office have not commented.
A DNA test on the bones of a man who lived 4,500 years ago in the Nile Valley has shed new light on the rise of ancient Egyptian civilization. Researchers say about 1/5 of his DNA came from ancestors in the world's first literate and urban society, Mesopotamia, in modern-day Iraq. They say biological evidence of links between the two cultures could help explain how ancient Egypt transformed from a collection of farming communities to one of the mightiest civilizations on Earth. And on the first day of the Women's European Football Championship, the hosts Switzerland have lost to Norway by 2-1. In the opening match, Finland beat Iceland 1-0, marking their first win at the Euros since 2009. The reigning European champions England begin their defence on Saturday against France. The current world champions Spain are the favourites. And that's the latest BBC News.
Opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM with your hosts, Ellio Solomon, myself, Austin Harris, as we continue our program and our discussion. As promised, both of us are very excited to reveal certainly our next guest, whereas today we will begin to explore Cayman's changing landscape through the eyes and writings of President Emeritus of the University College of the Cayman Islands, former Minister of Education and social historian, and for today's purposes, author, the Honorable J.A. Roy Bodden, and his fourth book, Deconstructing Development, Immigration, Society, and Economy in the Early 21st Century Cayman. Mr. Bodden, welcome to Straight Talk.
Thank you. Great to be here. Great to be in the company of old friends.
Indeed, indeed. We feel a sense of nostalgia when we have you and greet you in studios, as we were certainly present and had the opportunity to be with you when you rolled out your very first book on ourselves and the wider Cayman Islands, if not the wider world. And it certainly does feel a distinguished honor to still be with you as you once again now roll out your fourth version of some truly impressive and educational literary work, such as the book that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, well, this has been a labor of love. I was working at this book for about 4 years.
Wow. It shows.
And it's different from the others because I conducted interviews and I solicit opinions through some surveys. But I have to correct you, sir. This is my 9th book.
Oh, my God. Where have we been? 9th book?
9th book.
Oh, my goodness.
I want to ask a question that seems a little bit off topic, but before you came in, I was telling my colleague, I
hate to be that wrong, that far off.
Well, we happy to be that.
We are happy to be that wrong, but
I remember you giving a quote, and forgive me if I get it a little bit wrong, but you once said that politics was just your mistress and education was your wife. I remember that.
Here I said it. I said politics was my mistress. Teaching was my wife. And as frequently happens in real life, when I tire of my mistress, I shall return to my wife.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And I did have a question. So in those mistress and wife examples, where does the books fall? Will the books be your children?
The books are my children.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
We were on track with that one.
All right. All yours, Austin.
All mine.
Well done. Well done. All yours.
Well, Mr. Bodden, I wonder if you can talk to us again. You talk about, obviously working on this latest work for a period of 4 years. That's an impressive length of time focusing on a book, which certainly one might say represents, your entire soul. What was the motivation behind writing this body of work?
This book is a sequel to the Cayman Islands in Transition.
I thought so.
Right? And it's the penultimate volume in a 3-volume series on the study of Caymanian society. The final volume is entitled Family, Wealth, Class, and Status, as in socioeconomic status, the political economy of land in the Cayman Islands.
All right.
I wrote these books because over the years in my discourses with my Caymanian people, I realized that they don't understand what has happened to them and what is happening. And no disrespect involved, not even the politicians have full cognizance of what is happening and what is happening. You see, gentlemen, we are caught up in a vortex called globalization, in which we have little to no control. Indeed, countries bigger than ourselves have little to no control. And this globalization is the progenitor of the challenges that we have in immigration, in our society, in our economy. Hence, you see what Donald Trump is doing in the United States? He is building a wall to keep people out. Because these influx of people want to come into the United States, and he said the United States is not ready to absorb them. But the United States is not the only country. Some of the European countries now are getting tough on immigrants too, and
following his lead,
their laws against it. And so that is what, from the time our men went to sea, the doors were open for us in the Cayman Islands to be influenced by globalization. It was globalization that attracted our men. They left Cayman, sailed on ships in the United States, flying flags of convenience, going all parts of the world. Their absence from home left a void. So when Cayman was developing, my thesis is that we never had enough local labor supply. So that's how we got in trouble. We imported labor. Our men went away, and we brought in men
to replace them.
So there was an imbalance. There was an imbalance, even to the point where when our men came back, stopped going to sea, they were out of place because all the jobs that they could have done in construction and other things were already taken up by outsiders who came here and decided that they wanted to stay here, putting pressure on the local population.
Right.
And today that pressure still exists because these people came from jurisdictions where they were prepared to work for less than the Caymanians would work for. And so they were attractive to employees. Coupled with that, we were warned not to sell our land. And we sold the land. We sold absolute titles to the land. And so that was the only resource we had in common. When we dispensed of that, we have nothing left.
Yeah, I think I remember those discussions with you when you were more in favor of the sort of the leasehold.
That's right. I'm still in favor of that. Still in favor of, we should not have sold absolute titles to Caymanian land to anyone who was not a Caymanian. And I have all that in this book. But it goes further. We should have not have given them citizenship. We should have given them some other kind of belonger status, but not citizenship, because we are a small community. And so I have the whole chapter, the whole section talking about ancestral privileges.
Right.
Why should we give them our ancestral privileges? They cannot be equal to us. We got these privileges through years. Our ancestors here years. Squatters' rights, security of tenure without being challenged. Why should we take that and give that to them? That's our birthright. Even in the cases where we marry foreign women, the citizenship should go to them, but it should not be extended beyond that. Logically, any children we have, the Caymanian spouse has, would be Caymanian. But if he dies and the woman remarries, that citizenship can't transfer. If she divorces him, that citizenship can't be transferred to a non-Caymanian husband. It's the only way we protect. Gentlemen, it's not rocket science. They call me radical, communist, black power advocate. But the government sent me away to school. That's where I learned these things.
Yeah, I remember you facing quite a lot of challenges, for example, when you were bringing the employment law in terms of trying to really put that tripartite system in place. But I want to ask you, this book here clearly has a gift to Caymanians, as you say, many of us being misinformed or not even informed at all. Are you hoping that perhaps the book elucidates certain things that causes a change?
I want to strike up a national conversation. You know, I asked a friend of mine, an academic, you know what he put in the foreword? He said this book should be read by every Caymanian at least twice in their lifetime. This book. This book.
Well, I would certainly concur with those remarks, having, scanned through many of the chapters. If I could just for a moment suggest, in terms of my feedback, what I took away from this book was I couldn't escape the fact that a recurring theme kept popping up page after page, and that is the age-old question, who are we developing this country for?
Exactly.
And if I may be so bold, I think in no other chapter was this theme more visible than chapter 9, when you speak of the title of chapter 9, the duality, paradise and the plantation. And with your permission, I would like to read just a paragraph here for the benefit of the listening audience. Again, perhaps as encouragement why they really need to buy this book, which, by the way, we intend to buy this book, and we hope for, as they would say in Old English, an inscription from its author to Straight Talk, to continue a fantastic tradition as did exist before. But chapter 9, the duality, paradise and plantation, it states, to the casual observer, the Cayman Islands appear as an ideal society based upon the blending of the various elements into one homogeneous model. The facade is impressive, but when examined below the surface, we find that the society is really an agglomeration, excuse me. Again, you really exercise my vocabulary when I read your book. An agglomeration of persons from different national, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds held together by one fragile thread, the economy, which, in absence of acculturation methodology, will not hold in any significant challenge to the status quo. It is posited here that the duality is more than a sociological construct of this work. It is a state of mind that holds all persons within it captive. Those in paradise, especially the expatriates, who are trapped in the illusion of their own self-imposed superiority, while those on the plantation are trapped in the purgatory of the expatriates' definition of plantation inhabitants. It is as if there are two different Caymans, one in which discussion about blood, land, and identity takes precedence. This is the Cayman of public debates and opinions, as raised on radio talk shows, social media, and blog sites in which identity becomes more politicized and racialized. Then there is the Cayman Islands revealed by the census data, a diverse society in which there is resentment, conflict, and a state of flux, but also one in which a greater number of expatriates and work permit holders are realizing the worth of unity with established Caymanians working alongside expatriates in a society where material well-being is the sine qua non of success. How's my Latin? Whether one views these opinions as ethnocentric or as political propositions, it is not difficult to envisage how their expression will make many expatriates feel uncomfortable. The fact remains, however, that if we really want to know from whence this dissonance, conflict, and turmoil comes, it would help us to be more introspective as individuals. Each of us should confront the quote-unquote man in the mirror. Until and unless this is done successfully, the society will remain a duality, paradise for them and a plantation for the rest of us. Wow. Very strong and powerful words, Mr. Barton, but I realize from that as I read the words and get goosebumps that there is also a great deal of truth behind those remarks. Speak to us about just that brief passage.
I traverse through this island. And when you go to places, there's a big movement on now, gentrification. If you go down in West Bay, that's where it's most obvious, on the North Shore. You see all those condominiums.
In Northwest Point area.
Northwest Point area, and the local people push it further and further back in. I wonder if someone doesn't realize that that's trouble. Trouble is going to come over that. Because these people are one day going to realize, look, this land used to be ours. We can't even see the sea now. Mm-hmm. These people who are there are a different color from us. They speak differently from us. Mm-hmm. They have no association with us, but that land used to be ours. Somebody is going to get wise and say, we want it back. Mm-hmm. We want it back because no peace for us, no peace for them. It's as simple as that.
And you notice the walls around those properties are only getting taller.
I'm trying to tell them the walls are not going to save them because you need to know your neighbor. You need to be on speaking terms and on social terms with your neighbor because it happens. Look, I've been to South Africa. I've seen the same thing. The razor wire don't stop those people. You got to come out one of the most violent places in the world. So I'm a prophet saying if we don't address these things, the helicopter ain't going to save them. Mm-hmm. Helicopter is not going to save them.
Yeah. I remember hearing that in terms of the, what do you call them? The ghetto areas in the Brazil. Again,
the favelas?
Favelas. That's the term again. You know, flying in helicopter from building to building.
Yeah, but
don't dare come down on the street.
But so, gentlemen, it's a phenomenon. And I know I have this part. I say, look, I know what's going to happen. They're going to curse me like they cursed me for all the other stuff. But I know that I'm right. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things I have done is I have documented and corroborated my ideas with the ideas of other academics, other sociologists, other political economists, so they can't say there's a figment of Roy Bunn's imagination.
Yeah.
You know,
if they're the brand you're a radical, you're in good company.
Look, can I say something?
Sure. Of course. The floor is yours.
My next birthday, I'll be 79.
Okay.
In October. This is July.
You're looking good.
You look
This is July.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So what have I got to lose?
Quite right, sir.
79 years old. I'll be 80 if God spares my life. I'll be 80. So, because I don't want certain things to happen. History should not be repeated here.
And I don't know you, Mr. Borden, as well as I would like, or as well as the other guy, but I know you've been preaching these messages for a long time. And I guess it got to the point now where you say, I can say it verbal so long, but I won't put this in writing.
But these are conversations I have in my house because I make sure that my sons understand the society they're living in. We talk about this every day.
Right.
People come in our country, our society, and want to spit on us and disrespect us and insult us. That's why I don't believe in mankind. I don't believe in mankind.
Yeah, but I'm on here preaching many times about some of these persons who have arisen, self-proclaimed owners of this private island. But yeah, go ahead.
Respect begets respect, and I don't hate anyone. I just love Cayman and Caymanians.
Right.
It's as simple as that. Because I write from the experience of having immigrated to another country, and I know the rights I had there, particularly when I was not a citizen. I had to keep in my place. So why should these people be able to get off a plane just because they have $2 million and walk upon me and people like me? We don't need the $2 million that badly. And so my writing is a cry from the heart to say, here are how things could be improved. But I want to make a point, very, very important point. Not all expatriates are like that.
Yes.
Because we have people who are here, expatriates, and they're as Caymanian as the real Caymanian. The people who have come lately, however, these are the people with the attitudes. It's similar with the Jamaican people. I have a chapter about Jamaica, bane or blessing. Jamaicans in Cayman, bane or blessing, chapter 6. And I talk about the Jamaicans who came here earlier and the contributions they made as against those who are coming now. I call them ragamuffins, higglers, and yardies.
Right.
Foul mouth, uncouth, urinating in public, all these kind of things. We weren't accustomed to that.
Yes.
So that's my writing. That's my writing. And I wasn't the first person to cry to say we shouldn't sell our birthright for a mess of pottage. A man whom I admire, Andrew Morris Gerard, that was his plea in 1953. And he set the template for leaseholds when he leased 99 for 99 years. All that land is now Galleon, Beach Villas of the Galleon, and part of that it is now the Ritz-Carlton. To Benson Greenall, 99 years. He leased it for. That's the model we should have followed. But here, my undoing in 1978 were the real estate people who went to the politicians and tell them that I was a communist because I was against private property.
Right.
And I said no, I had no such thing against private property. I said in a jurisdiction, in a society, in an island state where all the assets are the land and its people, any separation of one from the other is going to breed problems.
Indeed, sir.
Point, look at the Red Indians
Absolutely.
in North America.
Well, Mr. Borden, your new book is in stores now and available for...
No, it's not in stores now because what I want to talk about is the launch of this book, which will be Saturday afternoon, July the 5th at the Sir Vassal Johnson Hall.
Wonderful.
That's when I'm launching this book. That's
all right. Terrific.
Public appearance. I'd like to invite the public because the book is for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, all of us in this society should read the book because I hope some people in the government, the political directorate, could read it because there are lessons to be learned. So, and the book it's going to retail for $35. So, because I write so that people can afford to buy it, for the Caymanian people can afford to buy it. So it's not a terribly expensive book, and I labor it, but I spent a lot of time in it.
All right.
And I'm looking forward to the third volume. Yeah.
All right. Well, we do have to pause and take a short commercial break at 28 minutes past the hour of 5:30. But when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Mr. Roy Bodden on, as I have been corrected, now his 9th book so far as a celebrated author, but this book representing the second in a 3-book anthology series, which we continue to discuss. Keep it locked. There'll be more Straight Talk next on Bobo FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo 103.1.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
At Polar Bear Air Conditioning, we believe in helping you to avoid costly mistakes and replacements. That's why we offer a quarterly maintenance program at a discounted price. You'll receive a 10% discount on all repairs, accessories, and services. Priority front-of-the-line customer status, reminders of your service, and no overtime rate for after-hours calls. Why not save money and avoid hassle with Polar Bear Air Conditioning? Need service now? Book our AC special for just $99. Book the next available technician at polarbear.ky. That's polarbear.ky.
Visit Healthcare Pharmacy's second location in Governor Square, servicing West Bay and the 7 Mile Beach Corridor with the care and professionalism you have come to expect from Healthcare Pharmacy. Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor Square also stocks a huge selection of Hallmark and shoebox greeting cards, vitamins, sunblock, last minute, and everyday needs. To refill and transfer your prescriptions, simply WhatsApp 329-7313 or visit healthcarepharmacy.ky or drop by Monday to Saturday from 9 till 6.
The Office Hero. To claim this title, you have to make an exceedingly wise decision. Do something that benefits staff, impresses clients, all while keeping expenses low. Are you ready to be the Office Hero? Here's what to do. Call Hughes Cleaning Service. Hughes Cleaning Service will make your office shine and you a hero. Dusting, vacuuming, windows, sanitizing, and more. Hughes expert cleaners will make your office a healthy, immaculate, impressive workspace. Call 949-0734. Visit hughes-janitorial.com. Hughes, you get more than clean.
At Price Right, spending less on everyday products is easy.
Spend less on office supplies, tools, and automotive products.
Spend less on groceries, fresh produce, and meat.
Spend less on electronics, TVs, and speakers.
Spend less on home furnishings, beauty products, and apparel.
At Price Right, we believe you can live better for less.
To start saving, visit us at the Airport Center in Georgetown or at Republix Plaza in West Bay.
For more info, visit priceright.ky. Live better for less at Price Right.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately. And
that's fine. We know you love it.
We just don't understand how you could afford it.
The KFC What a Deal menu starting at just $3. Gives you lots of great choices and value. Available at KFC Baytown Plaza, Shetton Road, and in the Strand. The KFC What a Deal value meals. The deal everyone should know about. Come to KFC and enjoy a variety of tasty choices at surprising prices. KFC, so good.
Across Cayman on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority, committed to caring for you. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, Cayman, to more Straight Talk as we continue our very riveting, interesting, informative, elevating conversation with author Roy Bodden discussing his latest creation, Deconstructing Development, Immigration, Society, and Economy in the Early 21st Century Cayman. This discussion I will highlight was originally slated for 30 minutes, but what's 30 minutes amongst friends? And certainly when we have an author as distinguished as Roy Bodden in studios, who prior to the break was highlighting the fact that in October he'll be 79 years, and arguably the contents of this book have been seen through those eyes of those 79 years here in the Cayman Islands. And wow, what a powerful piece of literary work. I want to encourage members of the public to continue listening, to attend the book launch, which we will again remind you of those dates in this segment. But go out and purchase this book. It's going to be the best $35 you will have ever spent in a long time. Ellio.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on one of the comments that you made, is that you definitely would love to be able to see coming as a result of this book something like a national debate or discussion. And I'm curious, do you think, I know you one of your roles was 9 years serving as the president of the University College of the Cayman Islands, and we want to thank you for that too. But do you think that this is sort of the thing that could be stirred up in the universities and perhaps take legs from there and eventually become a national discussion?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Because what is lacking in Cayman now is an honest broker that can bring the two sides, paradise and the plantation, together. The politicians, with all due respect to them, can't do that because they're conflicted. They have their constituencies. And so it's not unusual for them to speak out of both sides of their mouth, depending on how close they are to election. So you need a neutral entity, a neutral body. Either you get a group of, in some jurisdictions, they call them eminent persons who have no vested interest in the politics of the society. They're not politically exposed people. Mm-hmm. But they have an interest in seeing the society be stable and run orderly and properly. Or it can emanate out of the halls of the academy, the university,
right,
as conversations. And perhaps in our case, that's the best place for it to come from, because the university would be a neutral participant. Yeah.
Totally awesome.
Yes.
Now, you were giving us one little bit of a snippet on a very awesome poem that you wrote that's in the book. I wonder if you could honor us by actually reading that on the air.
Yeah, this poem, it's called Mia San Mia, which translates into we are who we are. We Caymanans are who we are.
Mm-hmm.
The poem, natives, they call us, using synonyms of a subspecies beneath the effort of identifying us. We've really been denied, demonized, and dehumanized because we refuse to remain mere hewers of wood, drawers of water, and draggers of stone. And just because we aspire to control our own fate, they cry foul, label us as corrupt and incapable. And instead of lighting a candle, they curse the darkness and curse those of us who are Caymanian, especially those of us who are dark of the sun. We who came out of and represent the new and the old, the eternal diaspora out of Africa and the Caribbean with our mix of European. For too long, we have been put down, devalued, and dismissed. For too long, we have become distracted, disoriented, directed, and dictated to, forced to change our mission, abandon our journey, lose sight of our destination, and become disenfranchised. It's divide and rule colonialism, they say, as if Willie Lynch was here today. So it cannot be national pride, cannot be confidence in things Caymanian or even Caribbean. We have been everywhere, but then taken nowhere, to every continent, to every geographical destination, except those that matter. We have been encouraged to look everywhere but our own backyard and to read everyone except our own authors. We, who are yard people, who grew up in houses partitioned to allow free air access to the top. We, who are Argonauts, living outdoors while we built schooners to tame the sea. We, who captained supertankers and bulk carriers the size of Noah's Ark are now caged in townhouses and apartments, attended by stratas not of our making. We who communicated by dancing, shouting, and singing. We who acted out John Canoe and beat Gumbai, danced quadrille, plaited maypole, celebrated Emancipation Day. We who knew masquerade, practiced obia and nihilism, built our own enclaves, must now be civilized and speak in hushed tones on designer cell phones, must abandon our argot, must stop asking who your mama is and what you saying, girl, and instead speak with imported accents and TV talk, must not call out loud and strong from yard to yard, boy, what wrong with you? We who invented gentrification by building room by room are now being ghettoized in ethnic enclaves, subdivisions, they say. Our small businesses shuttered, our opinions cluttered, and so fool are we to say, you're right, when we know full well it's a sorry plight. For too long we have been made to think we have no culture, no heritage, no history, no ideas. We who are Caymanian have nothing of worth, nothing worth writing down, and certainly no one to write it. We have heard, let us show you. And of course, this is how it's done. But alas, did we not come out of the diaspora, out of that curious concatenation, out of Creole? Did we not hail from Guard House, from Gun Square, from Scranton, from Granville Road, from Macfield Square, from Wellpath, from Barabanu, from Spot Bay, from Cotton Tree Bay, from Boilers, from Rock Hole, from Breakers, and from parts known only to ourselves? Are we not Caymanians, descended from generations of those who came, from those who endured and survived? If this poem has any significance, it should serve to inform those who would appropriate our understanding, redefine our consciousness, deconstruct our sense of self, warn them that we are not about giving up, that we will never surrender, that we will not be vanquished, because we are Mia San Mia. We are who we are.
Wow.
That's on Mia.
Powerful.
Well, you know, I want to just, perhaps this is my last question for today. I mean, when I look at you, and I have always found you this way, so it's not something new. But seeing someone with that level of vision, insight, I would also call it, into our society, but not just having the insight, but the intellect and the audacity to speak up about it. I'm wondering if you could share with me and the listening audience what exactly happened in your childhood. What is that thing that motivated you, that allowed you think to be the Roy that sits in front of us, pretty much 80 years of age, to do what you're doing? Because as an intellectual, you could have taken any route, but you've chosen something. What is it that inspired you, Mr. Borden?
My mother. My mother. My mother was the greatest teacher I had. A Caymanian woman out of what I call the diaspora. Her parents went to Cuba. She was born there, and she spent her formative years there. It was my mother who told me, not only me, her children, that we were black, and gave us the significance of being black in what she called the white world. The Bakra world is how she called the white people. The Bakra world. It was from my mother that I learned about Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association. The Black National Anthem, she would sing it for us. Got that. Many people don't know, you know. Came from a dysfunctional family. My paternal grandparents were great people, but my father had a problem. And when he got drunk, he would go insane. They used to have to tie him up. That's the childhood I grew up. I had a strong, strong mother. That's where I got my grounding.
Well, I would say
God
she
bless
surely
the
must
mothers.
be proud of you today as she looks down at you and what you have done with your life. I think it is fair to say she is proud today, as we are.
Absolutely.
Mr. Bodden, we do have some comments emanating from the listening audience. One of them says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. I would like to congratulate the Honorable Roy Bodden on an incredible achievement of authoring 9 books. Your work is a powerful testament of the richness of our history, culture, and identity, and I thank you for being a guardian of our heritage and a voice for our people, and also those who choose to live here harmoniously with Caymanians. I would love to know where I can purchase your latest book. And if I may append to this, another writer asks, will this book be available digitally, either over Amazon or Kindle, along the same lines? Mr. Bodden.
Well, let me put out for the listening audience that the launch of this book will be this Saturday, July 5th, at the Sir Vassal Johnson Hall at the University College. At that launch, I'll have all of my 9 books will be available. All of my 9 books will be available, and I have priced the books so that my Caymanian people and anyone, but particularly Caymanian people for whom I write mainly, can afford them. The most expensive book is this one, is $35. The other books range down, they start from $20 and don't go any higher than $35. And they will all be available there because I write about Caymanians, and I'm a Caymanian. I write for Caymanians. Other people will be interested too. But mainly, I want to speak for the Caymanian people.
What time on Saturday?
Yes, thank
6
you.
o'clock.
6
6
o'clock.
o'clock.
Perfect.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, 6 p.m. Sir Vassal Johnson
6
Hall.
p.m. Sir Vassal Johnson Hall.
Yeah,
At 6 p.m.
Just to repeat, obviously the book launch for access to this latest body of work, but also an opportunity to, capture all of them and add them all to your library in a single sitting will take place this Saturday, the 5th of July, as Mr. Bodden will host a book launch. It will take place at the Sir Vassal Johnson Hall, located at the University College of the Cayman Islands, at the event beginning at 6 p.m. sharp. And what a wonderful opportunity it will be, again, to meet with, to discuss, and to learn more about the man behind this remarkable body of work, but also the man behind any number of the books he has already written. I think the immediate question that comes to mind, and I believe you've answered it already in many of the questions that have been put to you, but I will put it to you specifically. What do you hope, Mr. Bodden, that readers will gain or take away after reading this latest publication?
I hope that they have a greater sense of who they are as Caymanians, that they are worth something, that we are the descendants of people who were industrious, they were intelligent, they were proud, because Cayman was a frontier society, and our people had to battle mosquito infestation and devastating hurricanes. And they survived that, and we are their progeny. So it speaks volumes about what kind of people they were, and it should serve to tell us that we are second to none. Second to none. Wherever they come from. That's what my mother used to say. You are not better than anyone else, but neither are you worse than anyone else.
Indeed.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Bodden, I want to just thank you very much for coming in the studio and sharing with us the whole issue about your book. And I think Austin and I have already been told that we get the pleasure of getting a book as well. Much appreciated. And I look forward for you signing my book. And I really particularly want to thank you for sharing the story about your mother and that and the fact that she inspired you. And I've known you as well from the politics, and I want to tell you that we also owe you a debt of gratitude for the time that you served in office and for all the things that you done, tried to, and also equally the things that you tried to accomplish. So thank you very much, and God bless you.
Indeed, and well, we do have at least.
You going more time?
Oh no, we have at least 10 minutes left, so I don't want to rush him off just yet. But I think another excerpt, and we talk about this all the time, colleague, and that is of course the subject of tourism and our own views. But if we can jump ahead to page 223, I think there's an addition to one of his chapters, particularly the Geography of Money, Part 1. Under the heading, A Conflict of Visions, Everyday Struggles and the Future of Caymanians in Tourism. I found this also, it stood out to me. It says, both Warren Connolly and Jim Bodden, for all the credit they have received for trying to hone tourism to benefit Caymanians, were wrong in their assessments of the future of Caymanian tourism, as neither gave adequate consideration to the fact that tourism is an extractive industry. Even today, this fact seems not to be known or appreciated by those who are mandated to deal with this industry. The central focus of every minister from the beginning of industry until the present day has been on the number of visitors per annum. While this is important, increasing or maintaining large numbers of visitors should not be the central focus of the industry. That focus should be how the jurisdiction delivers an attractive product while at the same time ensuring that its local participants are treated fairly and the island's pristine physical environment is preserved. And secondly, limiting what development economists term leakage. That means curtailing the amount of foreign exchange lost through workers repatriating their wages and salaries abroad, coupled with reducing the amount spent on the importation of food and other goods to supply the industry. In spite of the promise of increased employment for Caymanians, tourism, even more than the comparison industries of corporate law and banking, deepens the jurisdiction's subordination to forces beyond its control by facilitating foreign investors importing migrant workers as a source of cheap labor, and offers little to the Caymanian worker beyond the unflattering promise of a trickle-down economy. And certainly this also spoke volumes to me, and we touched on it as we discussed some of the chatter in Parliament this past week, where yet again another Minister of Labour are encouraging Caymanians to wait for and apply for these 600 and odd jobs that is waiting for them when another hotel opens its doors. But we have heard this tired argument every time a new hotel opens, and I think you have managed again in fantastic fashion, Mr. Bodden, to, I think, express those sentiments in as few but very effective words as possible. Your views on tourism, Mr. Bodden?
Well, my views on tourism are not very encouraging, not very optimistic. They're building a new hotel in my part of Bodden Town, the Mandarin Oriental.
Yes, so we heard. Been talking about it for a while.
Informed sources tell me they're going to need about 4,000. They're going to need import about 2,000 to 3,000 workers for that construction. Now, I have it in the book. Gentlemen, you're intelligent. What sense does it make to develop beyond the capacity of us to supply our own laborers?
Mm-hmm.
Who is that benefiting? Who's that benefiting? You tell me they're going to import 3,000 construction workers? Where are they going to be staying? Are they going to build labor camps, turn them loose on the society. What's going to happen to the Caymanian young women? And these guys get off on a Friday evening or a Saturday evening and go in the bar and feeling their oats. Whose daughters are they going to trouble? The construction industry is known to be a drug haven. I never know it's Canada. These people don't want to get high. Can we not understand what we're doing? That it doesn't make sense? I hope that the politicians could read this book.
Very much so.
It doesn't make sense. Comes a point when we have to say enough is enough. I was at the graduating class last night. I was at the University College. We had a cohort of young men and women graduating in the technical and vocational areas. You know what I wish? Boy, this should be the days of Lyndon Pindling and Milo Butler. This morning, these companies would have been called up and say, hey, we had 300 young men and women graduating these areas last night. I want to know what room you will make for apprentices because we're watching your work permit applications, eh? That's the kind of results I want to see. Tourism? No, it's demeaning. It's demeaning. I pass every day, and I see the people out there taxing to the beach like there's some kind of beggars, mendicants. That's not the kind of stuff to build a society on in the 21st century. I'm telling you, it's not. It takes us back to the plantation. That's the kind of history we want to get away from.
Many would say the horse has already left the gates on this issue and this industry many, many moons ago. So perhaps we might be either crying over spilt milk, living in old nostalgia, but I guess ignoring the realities of what makes an economy work. Your thoughts on that?
Well, here's my point with tourism. It has positive aspects, but in Cayman, those are few.
All right.
The physical plant is owned by foreigners. Management, foreigners. People who come to stay in them, foreigners. The majority of people who work in them are foreigners. So all the government gets is the room tax, business license, and the few token Caymanians that work there, that work for minimum wage. So I want to see overall what's the benefit. I quote the respected economist Marla Bukaran.
Ellio's buddy.
Because I believe that she has some points that need to be taken. She's had some points that need to be taken. So it can work if there's a balance, but I don't see the balance, and there'll never be a balance because just like these people tell us, we have to take the trickle down. Cayman is for Caymanians. So if anybody, we should be holding the cup. Other people should be getting the trickle, but not us. Not us.
Well, again, we won't be disappointed, and you won't be disappointed if you pick up this book, what Roy Barton describes as a book, as being an urgent wake-up call for Caymanians, whether they inhabit paradise or the plantation. And if you want to pick up your copy and an opportunity to meet with the author himself, we encourage you to come out this Saturday for the book launch, which will be taking place on the 5th of July at the Sir Vassal Johnson Hall at 6 p.m. That's located there at University College of the Cayman Islands. Mr. Barton, very quickly, an opportunity for some closing comments, but we thank you once again for allowing Ellio and I to be a part of yet again another book launch. We were here with you when you launched your first book, The Cayman Islands in Transition. So this is a big deal for us to be here for you this time.
No, I have to thank you. I have to thank you and I certainly appreciate it. I always enjoy discoursing with you all. And, I poured my soul into the book, and it's well-meaning because I want the best for Cayman. I think we can have a society where everyone can live together, but we have to make some sacrifices and some compromises. And once we understand that we have to do that, then Cayman could be an ideal place for many years to come. We're striving to that ideal. My writings are a guide. I'm not saying that it's biblical, but it's a scholar's perception. Well-researched, well thought out. And, the Cayman Islands in transition. Many people don't know this, but I got an invitation.
Mr. Roy, I apologize. I hate to interrupt you, but we have to stop it there.
We got a clock.
We got a clock that will just kick us off in a few minutes. We'll be back.
Bobo.
The BBC is the world's most trusted news source.
And Bobo 103.1 is where you'll find the BBC World Service.
BBC News, the world news from the BBC.
And the home of Cayman's most listened to top shows.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
And welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon.
Across Cayman,
On FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1.
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here at a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation.
OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
BBC News.
BBC News, world news from the BBC. Violent clashes.
Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive winds.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. The rap music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been denied bail following his conviction for prostitution-related offences. The decision means he will have to remain in jail until he is sentenced. Combs was cleared of more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. Nomia Iqbal is outside the court in New York.
His family were very disappointed. This morning when the verdict came through, they were cheering, they were celebrating. Sean Combs dropped to his knees because this was a victory. They had put up, his family, a $1 million bond to secure that release. But the judge had cited the defence's own closing statement, which said he was a domestic abuser, and they accepted the argument by the prosecution that there are witnesses who are worried about any intimidation that might happen if he should be released. The judge has proposed sentencing on October the 3rd at 10 a.m. The judge has said he will get 10 months credit for time served so far.
Republican leaders in the US Congress have delayed a vote on President Trump's tax and immigration bill as they scramble to overcome objections from members of their own party. Some Republicans in the House of Representatives are unhappy because it will add trillions to the national debt while cutting health care. Democrats are united in opposition, but the Republican congressman from South Carolina, Russell Fry, remains positive.
I think members want to deliver these wins. No one wants to see their taxes dramatically increase at a time when we can't afford it. No one wants to see the border continue to be wide open. The president's done a remarkable job at shutting down the flow of illegal immigration, but we also have to repatriate these individuals who are in this country illegally to begin with. So people want to deliver on the big, beautiful bill, and I'm very optimistic that at the end of the day, we will have done exactly that and sent this bill to the president's desk.
A federal judge has blocked President Trump's efforts to prevent people seeking asylum in the United States. Judge Randolph Moss said Mr. Trump exceeded his constitutional powers when he signed an emergency order on his first day in office to deport migrants without allowing them to apply for asylum. UN officials say armed gangs have further tightened their grip on Haiti, despite the efforts of police and a Kenya-led international force. The Assistant Secretary General for the Americas, Miroslav Yencha, said state authority was on the brink of total collapse. With more, here's Will Grant.
Port-au-Prince was, he said, to all intents and purposes paralysed by the gangs and isolated by the suspension of international commercial flights. Speaking after a recent visit to Haiti, Mr. Jenker also said the gangs had strengthened their foothold in the country and painted a dire picture of a capital city and a nation on the brink of collapse. For months, Haiti's gangs have controlled an estimated 85% of the capital, but the UN officials' latest assessment suggests they may have consolidated that control in recent weeks.
Will Grant reporting. World News from the BBC. The US Defense Department says intelligence assessments suggest Washington's bombing of Iran last month has set Tehran's nuclear program back by up to 2 years. The assessment was delivered by a Pentagon spokesman, Sean Parnell. President Trump has insisted US bunker-busting bombs obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer has strongly backed his Finance Minister Rachel Reeves. Speaking to the BBC's Nick Robinson, he described her tearful appearance in Parliament on Wednesday as a personal matter for her. Sir Keir insisted her emotional upset was unrelated to this week's rebellion by government party MPs over welfare cuts.
It was a personal matter for the Chancellor, nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with any discussion between me and Rachel, nothing to do with the matters of this week.
So she'll still be Chancellor by the time this interview is broadcast in full in a few days' time?
She'll be Chancellor by the time this is broadcast. She'll be Chancellor for a very long time to come.
Mounting questions about Reeves' future have caused volatility in financial markets. Allies later suggested she had clashed with the Commons Speaker. A DNA test on the bones of a man who lived 4,500 years ago in the Nile Valley has shed new light on the rise of ancient Egyptian civilization. Researchers say about 1/5 of his DNA came from ancestors in the world's first literate and urban society, Mesopotamia, in modern-day Iraq. They say biological evidence of links between the two cultures could explain how Egypt transformed from a collection of farming communities to one of the mightiest civilizations on Earth. And on the first day of the Women's European Football Championship, the hosts Switzerland have lost to Norway by 2-1. In the opening match, Finland beat Iceland 1-0, marking their first win at the Euros since 2009. The reigning European champions England begin their defence on Saturday against France. The current world champions Spain are the favourites. And that's the latest BBC News.
And opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 as we continue and move into our final segment of the evening. For those out there in Radio Land who are watching their clocks, the time in studio is now 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Giving us about 23 minutes before we have to wrap it up for the evening. But the phone lines are open. The number to call, 745-2626 is the number. If you don't want to talk live on the air with us, you can also reach out to us on our WhatsApp number. From there, 928-2562 is the number. And from there, you can send us either a WhatsApp audio note or a traditional WhatsApp text message. And likewise, if neither, suits your fancy, you can always email us at host@straighttalk.ky. I noticed during the break that we did have a caller trying to get through, but of course we were on the break. Hopefully they will take this opportunity to do so now while it is available to them. But in the meantime, we do have what looks like two audio notes on the WhatsApp side. Let's take those first.
Hi, Austin and Ellio. I hope you can fit this in. you know what? This issue about immigration, it's very disappointing, actually. I listened to the speech of the acting deputy governor the other day in Parliament, and it has the same usual excuses and these responses to these scare tactics. First of all, she kept saying, well, but you see, we don't want to apply it retrospectively. If you apply it to people who are already in Cayman today, that is not technically, legally speaking, retrospective. Okay? Me and Nick Joseph quickly agreed on that when he was on your show. So it's not retrospective. So I don't know where the Attorney General has been, who has allowed this to be mentioned repeatedly as if it is retrospective. That is one. Two, what is the problem? If you've got people who are specialized in forensics and this and that, you mean if you roll those over, you can't find other people who can be employed in those? There are tons of people in Jamaica, Eastern Caribbean, the UK who are ready to do those jobs. It is really, really ridiculous, because at the end of the day, what are you saying? Are you saying that in 9 years' time, there will be a certain change which will allow this rollover to work? I don't know, because in 9 years, those people are going to have status. So in other words, you will have solved the problem? I'm not quite sure what kind of thinking that is. Basically, at the end of the day, to me, as far as I'm concerned, this government on the immigration, I think they have already failed. On the jobs, it looks like Michael Miles here and there is saying the right thing. But on immigration, I have already made the call. They have failed. They never wanted this immigration reform anyway. For 20 years, people called for it, and they never did it. And now they are doing it, but they are doing it half-heartedly. And since, as you have pointed out, Ellio, the number of people who have been granted status are mainly from the private sector anyway. In government, they've been granting status at only 4.5% rate every year. So with this new rollover and some exemptions, maybe they might be granting at a rate of 2 per year. It will have little or no effect. At the end of the day, I think you people have sold your country out, and even the politicians are not ready to admit it. They know too they have sold it out. They have not solved the problem. You have a nice day, gentlemen. Hi, Austin and Ellio, it's me again. I would have loved to be able to call in and talk to Mr. Roy Borden, you know, who I helped to write the employment law. It was his legislation, but I was his drafter, and that was the first time that I met him. And I like what he said about, you know, how you build hotels. And the people who work in it, the people who build it, and so forth, are all foreigners. Now, it is basically the same thing that people have been saying. Who are we developing? Who are we developing for? To me, the way I see it is, I like the metaphor of Cayman being more like a surrogate mother. Okay. People bring in investment there, it grows, and then the result of that growth is taken away. So that at the end of the day, there is no impact other than what he called the room rate, which is, you know, some taxes and those kinds of things. And to me, at the end of the day, that's a problem. I come from Africa. When a hotel is built and you go to the hotel, most of the builders tend to be local. And also the people who work in it, some of them even up to a very high level, are local people. So at the end of the day, when you are saying that Cayman is developing, oh yeah, maybe the buildings are there, but there is no impact on the local people. The unemployment just continues. And I think what you said, I think it was Austin, has this horse bolted? I'm starting to feel that maybe this can never be corrected, because when is it going to be corrected? These problems are very, very obvious. They've been there for a very long time. And myself, I mean, I tend to still hope that something will be done. But especially after this new government, I am sorry, it just doesn't look like the message is getting to the politicians. But let us see what happens. You have a nice day, gentlemen.
And we thank you to that listener for sharing his also poignant remarks on the two subjects. On the one hand, immigration, as we were discussing earlier, and then on to Mr. Roy Borden. We do have a caller in the line. Let's take that call. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. Mario, you mind here? How you doing?
I'm good, Mr. Mario. Thank you for your call.
Happy Wednesday, hump day.
Happy Wednesday to you too, sir, my friend.
Yes. I know that you guys, whenever you get a topic, you examine it and ruminate and add a lot of value to the intellectual debate. And so I just want to raise two quick things, and I wanted to kind of raise these or pose these to Mr. Ellio, since he has many hats that he wears, but one of them is construction and development.
Mm-hmm.
So two development-related questions, and I'm kind of drawing a bit on Mr. Roy Bodden's discussion and his clarion call that he's made for decades now about who are we developing for. But the question is, the hotel that is being built on right next to the Whitehall Cemetery in Georgetown, the little boutique hotel, that is seems like nothing is happening for the last at least 6 months, if not more, maybe 9 months. I wonder if anybody knows what's happening with that. Why is it not progressing? Is it going to be an eyesore, or whether it's some planning issue? Maybe, I don't know if Ellio, he has a way of hearing these things and coming back later on with the research. So I'll leave that. And the second question in relation to development and building is the large companies and construction companies and development companies that have potentially, tens or hundreds of workers on site. And many of those don't have cars. The public transportation is not the best. And so they may buy a couple of Honda Fits and pack into that and drive those like crazy around the place. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't there be some kind of requirement for these large developers to provide busing for their workers who come into Cayman? Because I think I see a lot of the accidents that I see in the road and the bad driving, the crazy driving, is due to those people that have on these yellow and bright high-vis shirts, and most of them, I must say most of them, and I know what I'm talking about because I know them, hear them, and see them, are Jamaicans. But that's beside the point. The point is, should these companies be required to have some kind of busing service, whether it means providing their own buses or doing a contracted thing with the busing companies, especially when they are not busy with tourists or during the afternoon hours that the cruise ships are gone, that these people have excess capacity to provide transportation for these workers, because it is really getting ridiculous. It will help traffic situation a lot, but also prevent all these cars being bought by necessity and these crazy drivers causing nothing but carnage on our streets. I'll leave those two questions for you gentlemen to research and ruminate on.
Well, just very quickly before you go, because I want clarification, if not for myself, then certainly for my colleague, but certainly I'll pick up the last point first. I think you make a valid point that in the absence of, developers busing their otherwise foreign staff to and from work, which would certainly mean one car or two cars versus 40 or 50, which would only clog up our roads, particularly in the morning, even more so. I thank you for making that point and that observation. When you spoke about the boutique hotel perhaps not being developed, were you referring to one in specific or just in
I think
general?
he's talking about the one that's by Dixon Graveyard in front of the old Delaware SO, right?
Correct.
Excellent. I just wanted that clarification in case,
that's been there.
My colleague missed
That's been there for a long period of time, and there seems to be nothing going on.
Right.
All right.
Could I say finally that I really appreciated the research that Mr. Ellio came back with a couple of days ago on the issue with gratuities. Mm-hmm. And so, that's another important topic, but we can talk about that another time. But
I want to thank you for raising it as well, and I'll use you as an example because I would really love to be able to hear, because I'm sure you're not the only one, but you definitely have the courage to call in, but other persons can text, because those are, I think, issues that we can sit and we can discuss and really have some good intellectual discussions that carries our minds and hopefully the country forward as well, So I want to thank you for doing it and encourage all of our other viewers and listeners out there to do the same thing. Let's have a House Straight Talk be one of those places where all the thinkers can gather, those who love to think.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Exactly. Good job, guys. Keep it up.
Thank you, Mr. Mario. As always, we appreciate you tuning in regularly, but also being a regular contributor, whether as a guest in studio or in this instance, one of our regular callers. Again, we truly do appreciate your commitment to this program as we remain committed to you and all of our listeners.
Yeah, and I definitely want to promise him that we'll go ahead and try to see if we can get some information, because I have been seeing that building, and I remember kind of rhetorically just going ahead and asking the question as well, like, what is going on there? Because I know this has been months, if not over a year now. I mean, for as long as I can remember now, I've been seeing this building staring at me, and absolutely diddle is happening with it. So I think that is worthy of some investigation. And we can also ruminate on this question about, how much transportation. And I think he tagged it along on Mr. Roy Borden's point. And that's probably because he's talking about the potential 2,000 or 3,000 more employees on the road.
Yes, brought on by the development of the Mandarin.
What is that going to be in terms of additional congestion? And the list goes on, And again, the strain on let's not even say strain. Sound negative. The demand on infrastructure, right? And I think it's definitely worth chatting. And again, I want to thank him for raising that. And I definitely undertake to ruminate on it. My colleague and I will do so together.
Indeed. At almost 20 minutes, now 19 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock, we got another comment coming from our WhatsApp line. It reads, "I'm sorry I missed the chance for Mr. Bodden to hear this. I respect his perspective, especially his concern about developing beyond the capabilities of our people and infrastructure. I think that's a fair and valid point. However, I want to challenge the broader notion that tourism does more harm than good. Around the world, very few countries have intentionally kept tourism out of their economy and still prospered. Tourism, if done right, is not a threat. It is an opportunity for Caymanians. It has been a lifeline for generations. Let's improve it, not abandon it." He spoke of the imported labor earning and sending money abroad and such individuals causing more harm than good. I, unfortunately, do not agree. Firstly, people earning money should always have the freedom to use their money how they feel. Here in Cayman, we have one of the most robust employment vetting systems in the region. Every person coming here to work and is screened through police clearances and various protocols before even stepping foot here. We are not throwing the doors open recklessly. And again, we thank the writer for those thoughts, and I guess demonstrating the other side of the argument on the subject of tourism. I did regrettably find, the comments from Mr. Bodden on tourism a bit bleak. But perhaps, again, there is a lot of merit when we continued to make this argument, and we made the argument, I think, on Friday last, suggesting that we should do away with the nice summer cleanup campaign as an opportunity for unemployed Caymanians to find employment, not employment, but work with dignity, to get a few dollars in their pockets, those who have none, but to do so without being given a handout, I think is an important program. And, of course, we criticized Minister Michael Miles for his comments in Parliament in doing so. We also criticized the minister on his suggestion that what these people, in his words, should be doing is embracing the 600-plus jobs that will come from the opening of the doors of the hotels known as the Grand Hyatt. But I think to the point that, Mr. Bodden did make, we saw this when the Kimpton came online. We saw it when the Indigo came online. We saw it when the Ritz came online. The same promises were made that jobs would be made available to Caymanians. There would be opportunities for Caymanians, but we continue to ask, if they are employed, where are they? Because they certainly are not on the front line. And we can add to this by sentiments that we've heard from our very own tourists who ask the question almost all of the time, where are your Caymanians? We see them when we go to Barbados. We see them when we go to Jamaica. But in the Cayman Islands, we don't even see them in the hotels, let alone on the beaches or on the streets. So, this is a legitimate question. It may be uncomfortable to look at. It certainly may be uncomfortable to speak of, but it doesn't reduce the fact that it is still true. So,
well, first of all, I want to take my hat off, as they say, the proverbial take your hat off to that particular author, because I think it was very audacious of him and courageous, as we say, for him to to write in and actually express a counter view to Mr. Roy Borden. I think that takes And he's done so respectfully. So I think that takes a lot of courage, and I really want to, take my hat off for him for doing that. Now, of course, I find myself in the position to be completely honest that, we've had a guest in here who talked about his book, and I don't want to do anything that even remotely tends to sully that in a way. I think that as in Parliament and everything else, what's that saying? Nisi bonum, say nothing ill about the dead. And in this particular case, there's no one who's dead, but I would just suffice it to say that I think that the comments coming from that particular person who offers his resistance and counter view to Mr. Roy Borden has a tremendous amount of merit. And I definitely want to ventilate it on another day. In saying that, I have to express that most likely I will not be here tomorrow with my colleague because I want to attend this function that the Deputy Premier is going to be chatting about tourism. So I guess he's now aware that I'll be coming. So either way, I want to be able to go to that particular function and, hear, at the minimum, hear what's going on, if not be somewhere and somehow involved in a Q&A or something. But so for that reason, I most likely won't be here. But I hope to be back on Friday with my colleague. And
leaving me all by my lonesome to go.
Never knew my father.
Politician talk. That's all right. That should be a priority. He was here.
It's a call.
Ago.
It's a call for the another hat that I wear, and I thank my colleague for allowing me, to slip out every now and then.
No problem.
But I assume it's not going to be just a pleasure thing. It's a work thing.
Yep.
So. So to that author, I want to say that I will definitely be hoping to ventilate on that a little bit on Friday as well. I also wanted to raise another topic today, but our discussion with Mr. Borden was so enticing, so good that we went on a little bit longer, and I don't think I will be able to do justice to this discussion.
You want to tease it? You got about 5 minutes.
I don't know if I can tease it without really just saying it. So all I want to say is I can tease it with this. I'll be back on Friday, and I'm hoping to discuss something that I'm understanding the government has somewhat implemented as a bit of a policy among themselves as individuals within the government that I find very interesting, and I want to be able to express it and at least share with you my concerns about these sort of policies. And not that it's arguably anything really new. It seems to be a bit more formal, but it is something that I don't think is beneficial for the country. And of course, I'm going to share it with you first here, the listening audience. So for that reason, I would encourage you to listen to us on Friday, at least to hear that particular view. And of course, don't leave my colleague here all by himself. He'll most likely be with someone else, but feel free to give him a couple of texts and some shouts and
absolutely,
help make it easier for him to trot along without me.
Keep me company tomorrow, indeed.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, certainly, again, I wish you well, and by all means, this is not a junket or a jaunt or time off that you're taking. It is another working event, albeit not here, and hopefully. We let you go tomorrow only to bring you back to report on what you learned, and that will, of course, benefit members of the listening audience. So,
no, absolutely.
But of course, having only learned of it today, kind of puts me a little bit on my back foot. But we could have a great show tomorrow. Maybe there'll be a guest in Ellio's absence. Maybe I'll invite a guest host to join me and keep things rolling. But in any event, I'm sure the show will and must go on, and I'll be here. And like I said, we look forward to receiving Ellio back on the program on Friday. It's not like he's going forever.
Yeah.
He's taking a few hours off to be somewhere else. And again,
I almost, to be honest with you, I almost felt like the timing of this is like, let's put it at this time because Ellio can't come. But I don't want to take it that personal. I'm sure that's absolutely not the case. So I have to dodge out. But who knows? There's lots of persons, and again, speaking of that, I am sure that there's a lot of our listeners that have views on many different things. If you're ever interested in perhaps coming on the program, maybe you can send us an email or send us a text so that when the time comes for us to go through the Rolodex, who knows? You might be able to just be a guest here on the studio and discuss your own topics. And again, that goes for those persons who are out there that have businesses that want to come on and advertise, and the list goes on. We want to encourage that too. And of course, our good friend, maybe Mr. Mario, we can talk behind his back. We could probably drag him on here tomorrow,
Well, ironically,
I'm sure we can squeeze a topic or two out of him.
I was surprised to hear him call up because I did reach out to him certainly earlier on, and I hope to reach out to him again when the show is over.
There you go. Great minds.
Perhaps even might even seek to reach out to a politician or two and see if we can't again get those who have been very supportive of our program through the phone lines. Give them an opportunity to be, supportive whilst they're on the air. Again, in the absence of my colleague being off for a few hours. A writer
2 hours to be exact.
A writer says, Austin, don't you worry. You can handle it without Ellio. Well, I thank you for the confidence, and I'm sure I will be perfectly
That's
fine.
either confidence in you, Mr. Harris, or trying to suggest that man is not making a contribution around here at all.
No. The latter would not be true.
Couldn't possibly be the case.
No, could not possibly be the case. You
just has your back.
You bring a great deal of value to the program. I'll be the first to admit it, and I'm sure the listening audience would as well. Yeah. But with the time remaining, again, we want to remind you of Roy Borden's book launch this Saturday, the 5th of July, which will be held at the Sir Vassal Johnson Hall at UCCI at 6 p.m. See you tomorrow on Straight Talk.
Amen.
The home of the BBC World Service, the most trusted news source in the world. This is Bobo 103.1. The following commercial messages are brought to you exclusively by Stingray Media.
Be prepared. Keep current photos of your pets and make sure their collars have up-to-date contact information. Pet owners in the Cayman Islands should have their pets microchipped. Be informed. Make a plan. Be prepared. For more information, visit caymanprepared.ky.
When you're on the go, the experienced team at Foster's Pharmacy are here to help. Drop off your prescription while you shop or WhatsApp us and we'll prepare it, ready for your arrival.
Whether you need prescription or over-the-counter medications, blood glucose testing, or advice on vitamins and supplements, we're here early in the morning to late at night. Both of our locations at our Camana Bay and airport stores are open 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday to Saturday.
For more info, visit fosters.ky/pharmacy. Foster's Pharmacy. Better health because we care.
Looking for TVs, electronics, sound systems, speakers, gaming consoles, games, and smart home gadgets? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for housewares, small appliances, fans, mini fridges, and cooling? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for baby supplies, toys and games, pet supplies, cleaning supplies, and auto supplies? Shop Cost You Less.
Looking for quality produce, grass-fed meats, and groceries? You guessed it. Shop Cost You Less.
Cost You Less is your destination for everything you need on island. Cost You Less. Everyday low prices on items that matter to you.
With you in mind, we have your style. Find what you need down every aisle. You want saving, selection, and quality. That's why we're your home store. The way to make a home. The way to make a home.
Insurance matters. It gives you the confidence to live life as you should, knowing you're protected. As a leading local insurer for over 25 years, Island Heritage has a consistent track record of providing best-in-class customer service with quick and efficient claims processing. This means insurance you can rely on when you need it most. The Island Heritage Way. Visit us online at islandheritageinsurance.com today to learn more about our home, contents, motor, marine, and commercial insurance products. Go on and live your life with Island Heritage.